Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. Real Estate Coaching Radio is the nation's #1 daily radio show for realtors who demand authentic, real-time coaching. Get ready for fluff-free, unfiltered, full-strength honesty about what's truly working to get you into action, helping others, and making money now in today's real estate market. Now to our hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
3, 2, 1, and we're back. Julie, it is January the 21st, and we have a new president.
Yes.
We've also almost got the first month of 2021 in the bag.
I know.
And I have really great news for you.
What?
Ready? Not a single report of flying snakes. No new pandemics.
That you know of.
That I know of, exactly.
Yeah.
There actually hasn't been any actual alien landings that have been officially,
registered.
So
landing.
far, this year is starting out less crazy than the previous year.
Yes, hopefully we can keep that momentum.
Well, I'm sure that we won't. I'm sure that the crazy train will return to the world, but such is the way. In the interim, all of you guys are in the right place at the right time and selling something that everyone wants, which is a home, or leasing them for that matter. So congratulations on having made that right decision whenever you got your real estate license. And so if you're just getting into the business, or if you're returning to the business, this is the part 3 of the podcast we started earlier this week that's just for you. Because this time of year brings out new agents. A lot of you guys got your licenses last year and you had in your goals to start your real estate career this year. That's traditional. But then there's also a lot of you, I'd say a vast majority of you that listen to us, that fall into one of those two categories, do fall into the category of returning to the business. And by returning, we mean in the literal sense. Some of you had a false start or sort of got into the business and sort of dropped out of the business and you're recommitting to it and all these different versions of returning to the business. So in both cases, this plan and what we've been sharing with you in the last 2 podcasts is completely relevant and should be taken very, very seriously. And if you skip any of these steps and if you don't move towards the philosophy that we're trying to share with you, chances are you're going to bring a lot of what should I say? I was going to say untoward.
Yes.
Is that a word?
Untoward. It's hard to say.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I should stop.
Undeserved, maybe.
Stress.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. I want to share with you guys a statistic. I'll remind you of a statistic. And I think it'll basically help kick off point number, what is it, Jules? Point number 14, right? Mm-hmm. So here's an interesting statistic. I'll do this in a story format because this thing I'm about to tell you actually reminded me that we haven't been sharing this information with you frequently enough. So Julie and I in our we walk 6 miles virtually every day. And I was on the walk. Someone texted me, had some specific questions about eXp Realty in this case. And so I called him, I put him on speakerphone, and I listened to his questions. And here was his scenario. He is a new agent, newish agent. He's been in the business for about a year. He's successful. He's been selling some houses and he's been part of a team. Now, I know he listens, so don't worry, I'm not going to use your name. But the reality of it is the amount of money he was making for the amount of effort he was putting in was just ridiculously low. Because he was on this team, in essence, guys, he was making about a 40% commission split. Now, that doesn't include, obviously, his own business expenses and his own personal expenses and all the rest of it. So his actual net income when he earned, say, $10,000 was realistically probably about $2,250, and that's before expenses. And I want you to think about that for a second. Does that even make sense to be part of a team if that's your scenario? But here's where the rubber met the road. So the reason he joined a team, and I asked him that question, knowing what the answer was, but I want to know what his answer was, is because he assumed that it would be easier for him to get momentum as a team member because they would give him leads. Okay, so let's write leads down. And then he said, I also wanted to have support and, training, and I wanted to have maybe a transaction coordinator, all that type of stuff, which was important to him. All that stuff makes perfect sense, right? But we just talked about how the cash flow was terrible. But here's where it was really interesting. The leads that he was given, and he was given a fair number, it came with the label of prepare for these not to actually work out for almost 2 years. So the leads that you get from online lead generation, generally speaking, are the least motivated essentially, I'm not going to say worthless, but I might as well say worthless. If you generate a lead today and it's not going to hypothetically transact for 2 years, where you guys are getting confused, and where he was confused originally when he started with this team, but now he understands, is statistically, yes, an average internet lead, it's a 2 to 3% conversion rate, and essentially the least motivated people are shopping online, or the least motivated people are the leads you generate online. This is just a statistical fact. But when he says, and when I'm saying to you that they'll transact at an average of 18 months, why do you think they're going to transact with you? Because here's where the fallacy is in the thinking of all these agents who want to basically get you, well, it's brokers and trainers and coaches who want to get you to spend all your time and money and effort learning how to be an online lead generator. If it takes you 18 months before you actually see any benefit from the work you're doing today, do you have enough financial staying power to basically essentially make ends meet financially for the next 18 months? I'm going to guess most of you don't. Now, there's part number one. Now, part number two is that just because 2 to 3% may convert within 18 months, what makes you think they're going to be doing business with you? And this is something no one talks about, and it should be so obvious to all of you. If you generate 100 leads online today from Facebook ads or whatever, and you stick them in your drip campaign, and 18 months from now, if indeed 2 or 3 actually transact, why would they transact with you? What makes you think that they're only in your campaign? What makes you think that they're only being dripped on by you? What makes you think they didn't walk into an open house? All the billions of other ways that buyers find a potential, agent or seller for that matter. So even though statistically what they're saying probably is true, I've never really researched it enough to know. I can only go by whether research has been done, and who knows if that's valid or not, but let's set that aside and assume it's valid. Why do you think when those people actually, transact, it's transacting with you? It doesn't work that way. This is not how a real business operates or a real business thinks. Matter of fact, Julie and I, look, we understand you guys have these long-term, drip campaigns and all this other stuff that you think is going to basically be almost like an investment in your future income, in essence. Well, we don't even advocate that at our coaching business. We'll tell you all of you guys want to know where you should sign up for these drip campaigns and all this other stuff. And we'll tell you, but we're not going to coach you. And essentially, we're going to tell you how to set it up. We're going to tell you the pluses and minuses of doing it. But what we're always going to do is we're going to point you on the people that are transacting less than 90 days. And here, I want you to think about this. And Julie's going to explain it hopefully succinctly. She's a little keyed up today, so.
Lay it on me. What do you mean to explain?
All right, so I'm trying to explain to them why, you and I are making we haven't decided whether we're going to do it using numbers or colors, right?
Right.
We're going to go
an illustration.
An illustration. Well, if we are successful at what we're trying to accomplish,
Yes.
right? Because we can barely verbalize it now, let alone make it
Yeah,
into
but
an
it's
illustration.
important because I know that they're very confused about this.
Right. They are
Yeah.
because they're being lied to.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to list the top 50 forms of lead generation that you guys are told to invest in. And then we're going to somehow denote what whether that's a 1 or a 10, and we're probably also going to use a color chart. Now, what do we mean? 10 means it requires the most skill, the least amount of money, and will generate money for you the fastest. And a 1 is no skill, most money, and least effective. And yeah, Julie just said it too. So a 10 is going to be something that requires skill, and under the skills banner goes knowing how to overcome rejection and how to essentially ask questions, be a professional basically. And 1 means you basically have no skill required. So just putting a finer line under this is, for example, picking up a phone and calling a for sale by owner would be a 10 activity. Number 1 activity would be probably 99% of the things you're being told to do. It would be online lead generation, be social networking, it would be making videos, it would be doing TikTok, it would be doing all this other stuff you guys are spending time on. And especially when it comes to paying for those leads to come your way. So you have a spectrum of most expensive, least effective, least resistance to most effective, most financially prudent, requiring the most skill. So that's going to be the spectrum, or the grading chart, if you want to put it like that way. Maybe that's what we should do about it. How they grade diamonds and whatnot?
Yeah. But isn't it interesting that the things that are most effective, what do we mean by effective? You don't have to talk to that many people. The ratios are killer on the high-skilled stuff.
Right.
And in addition to that, they're also the least expensive.
Right.
So it's an interesting intersection of criteria, right? High skill, low cost, great results.
Right.
When you have the skill.
Well,
Okay?
but that is the bottom line.
And that's the thing.
And not every the recipe or the combination of things that we'll prescribe to you as a coaching client aren't going to be the same. If you're in a marketplace where there's nobody, for example, calling notice to defaults, and there's notice to defaults in even the best markets, well, guess what we're going to suggest you do? If there's no one working the probate leads, guess what we're going to suggest you do? If there's nobody working, you guys get the gist of it. So we're going to help you do some exploration into where the lead possibilities are, and then you learn the skill set. And I'm going to tell you something else. Again, you have to understand this is critical that you guys get this as new agents or returning agents. If you're going to be investing your time and especially your money into things that you can't ultimately control, you're always going to be out of control. And that includes and primarily of your finances. So if you're investing in things like, for example, any kind of digital advertising, social networking, any kind of paid lead advertising, anybody you're buying leads from, guys, look at the pain and suffering that all of these agents and brokers and teams are going to be going through, if not already going through, whose business was predicated on buying business from Zillow. Look at the pain and suffering these guys are going to be going through. Many of these agents and these teams especially, expansion teams and all this other stuff, their whole business model is predicated on buying leads. Now, some of them they buy from Zillow, some of them they buy through, big portals like KV Core, or, essentially they're using mechanisms. But at the end of the day, a credit card number is being exchanged for leads. And now what happens is the companies that they do business with to buy these leads from, Zillow being the obvious example, they change the rules. Or in Zillow's case, they decided to become your competitor, right? They remove all your some of you guys, one of our primary competitors had so much hype about building your Zillow reviews. That was going to be the best thing. And if you don't have a bunch of Zillow reviews, Julie and I did not tell any of you. Did you ever say anything about? Neither did I. None of our coaches, none of our staff, we never told you get Zillow reviews. Why you'd want to have what was at the time, what we thought was going to be a competitor for you, essentially being your gateway for information for your clients, was insanity. So we never told you to invest in Zillow reviews. And guess what? I don't mean to sound boastful, but we are absolutely right. Because now what's Zillow doing? They're removing your sales data. They're removing your reviews. They're going to basically make it so all your past efforts are worth crap. And what they've done, and you can read this Inman article about this, is they're making it so that in the markets where they have iBuyer brokerages, right, where they have their Zillow offers and they're essentially opening up competing brokerages to you, they're making it so that your sales data is appearing, your name is appearing, but your sales data is not appearing. So if a consumer is going to Zillow and they're trying to search for sales data and you happen to be, you through blood, sweat, and tears and probably money were building your Zillow reviews, and now your Zillow reviews have disappeared, but your name is still up there, and under numbers of homes sold, it shows 0. What do you think that's going to do in the eyes of the consumer? How do you look in that scenario? Pretty damn bad, right?
Yeah, and let me clarify. It's not that we're against reviews, because we do coach you to get Google reviews and things like that are searchable. It's specifically Zillow because they are now your competitor. It's called Zillow Homes. This is not coming in the future.
Here's how they should do reviews. Yeah. And this is very simple. And we taught them back when there was flip phones to do this,
I just wanted to clarify that it's specific.
But you guys, what you should be doing is you should be getting reviews. You should be getting little short video reviews, and you should be putting them on YouTube. And then you should put them on, like, if we do suggest you have a business Facebook page, it's free. You get the recurring theme with Tim and Julie Harris. They want you to spend as little money as possible so you can make as much profit as possible. So do the free, social pages, set up profiles on there, and just chock them full of reviews and, basically stuff that makes you look good. So when someone does a search for you, they're going to find your profile on LinkedIn. They're going to find your profile on Facebook. They're going to find your profiles on some of these other sites, Etsy and whatnot. Those are all good places to have profiles. By profile, I just mean your picture, your contact information, some feel-good quotes and whatever. And if you want to auto-feed all those different social networking sites, motivational quotes or whatever, go for it. But that's the extent of which most of you should be investing in social networking. Because beyond that, it is on the spectrum of least resistance, most money. And by the way, inside money goes also time spent, right?
Well, stop there for a second.
Yes,
because
ma'am.
There's another thing I think that they don't necessarily understand that we might be assuming that they do. You started the top of this podcast talking about the ratio of conversion on internet leads being 2 to 3%.
Garbage.
But what does that actually mean? Okay, that means out of 100 internet leads, only 2 or 3 will actually transact.
But
And
almost 2 years.
After nearly 2 years,
Right.
only 2 or 3 out of 100. That's where the 2 to 3% conversion that we're talking about means. And it doesn't necessarily mean, to your point, that they'll even transact with you. Okay.
Right.
All 3 of them might do new construction. You'll never hear from them again. Okay?
Well, exactly.
And so I just want to make sure that they get that. And meanwhile, to your point, that it's not just the money, it's also your time. Somehow you got all 100 of those internet leads into your drip system, and maybe you called some of them, but how do you even know who those 2 to 3 people are that are going to convert? See, this model is just full of problems
You
beginning
know
to end.
as well as I do that 9 people out of 10 listening to us right now,
Yeah.
that especially those returning to business, that went to see one of these fake gurus who told them to basically build these complicated funnels
Yeah.
and systems and drip campaigns, never called them.
No, definitely
The
not.
only time they picked up a phone to call any of them would be in a form of lead follow-up, which is prospecting technically.
And that's okay. And
that's
that's
okay.
a little bit different. That's
But
maybe a better lead.
But no one's teaching
Yeah.
them how to pick up the phone and be
Yeah,
proactive.
so we don't even get to the part where maybe they're not transacting with you because you don't even know who the 2 to 3 people are because you never call them.
Oh, hold on, Julie. I've got a system in the back end that tells me where they're opening emails and whatnot, and whether they're paying attention.
Are you still not calling them?
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing, guys.
know?
And again, why are you thinking that this doesn't even make sense? If you're most of you, 99% of you, do not come to real estate with a bucket of money or previous business experience, let alone sales experience. And so you fall into the sticky spider webs of these people selling you gimmicks. They're selling you things that you will buy because the things they're selling to you require no skill and will make you feel good, make you do as Julie and I call it work theater, where you'll act like you're working, where you actually create a schedule around how many social networking posts you're putting up, opposed to how many contacts you're making. So here's just here's a takeaway. And Julie and I can vamp on this forever, obviously, because it's something that frankly really, really gets us going, because so many people out there with great potential, real estate folks getting, you guys, new licensees are returning. Anyone listening to us right now, you guys are having your potential sucked out of you because you're listening to the wrong people. And it's not just Julie and I that are saying this. There's other great people out there too, not in the real estate training industry. There's a guy named Jed Blunt who wrote Fanatical Prospecting, a friend of ours we've had on our podcast. Listen to some of these other people. They're telling you the truth. And so I do want to sort of round the bend before we get to our last 3 points. And I want to share with you guys a concept. And this has been around since the 80s, but I think it's incredibly valid. You can build your real estate practice as essentially a prospecting-based business with marketing backup, essentially, or you can do it marketing-based business with prospecting backup. So it's sometimes said, prospecting-based marketing enhanced, or marketing-based and prospecting enhanced. Well, here's the difference, and here's the path that most of you will follow, because again, it requires no skill, and because there's no resistance, and you won't ever hear the no when you're doing the marketing with the prospecting base. When you do the prospecting-based business marketing enhanced model that we've always advocated, you will probably never really want to do the marketing, because you will learn how to generate your own business, and you will have a very high margin business. When you're making all kinds of profit from your real estate practice and you're not spending money to generate the leads, and again, you're making huge margins. You make $10,000, you keep $8,500, something like that. Versus if you're a marketing-based business, you make $10,000, you keep $1,500. You guys get the difference here? This is really how it works in the real world. So you're going to be generating lots of money in profit, and then you're going to trip over some marketing idea that somebody's doing, and maybe it gets your ego going, and you're thinking, well, I need to do that too. But then you're going to hopefully be smart enough to do the math, and you're going to realize that, if the whole point of doing this marketing thing is to generate more, say, listings, I already know how to generate listings. I don't have to go out there and play work theater and buy listings. I certainly don't need to spend what would have been my profit on these gimmicky ideas, so I'm not going to even do it. That's what happens when you have a prospecting-based business. You don't get seduced by the marketing. Now, if you do want to do the marketing and you do want to meander into the social stuff, for God's sake, guys, don't be spending money on this stuff, because ultimately the money is to be made doing the prospecting or proactive lead generation, and that's where you essentially are. It's you and your skills and your ability and your dedication to doing what you don't want to do, and you don't want to do at the highest level.
That's right. And our most successful coaching clients presently and over the years have led with prospecting and enhanced with marketing. Let me give you a quick example. Tammy Irby, who is one of our great coaching clients in Northern Virginia, knows how to maintain her magic number of listings. She prospects several different areas and is a kick-ass lead follower upper. Okay, so that matters too. We've talked about that. But what is the media? What is the social stuff she does? It's all in support of those listings. Okay, so putting videos online on social media and YouTube of featuring her listings, which yes generates business to come to her. So she's using she's leading with the prospecting that got her the listing in the first place, backing it up with whatever she posts has something to do with the listing, and then she also does posts about buyers, wanted your home for a well-qualified
So let's
buyers.
explain that, though, because, again, we have to remember we're talking this, and right now this series is for, so what she's doing, actually, is she's validating to the seller that she's actually doing something to get the house sold.
Exactly.
That's number one. And number two, what she's doing is she's validating and proving to future sellers that she actually does more than the average agent does to get the house sold. Her social media, it sounds like, is focused on promoting the listing for the sake of making the sale, the house sell easier, faster, for the most money with the least amount of hassle to the seller. That's smart. That's how you're going to do it if you're going to do it at all.
But you see how that's leading with the actual production, and then the marketing kind of supports that.
And her brand, if she's even, utters that word, is based on sold listings and taking care of her sellers. And you guys are being conned into believing you have to be social networking influencer types and the business will follow. It doesn't work that way in anything.
She gets the calls because she has the catnip. She's got the listings that they want.
Exactly. And she's enhancing it,
and
like
it's so much easier. And you know what her net is? Her net is like 85%.
Exactly.
It's unbelievable.
So if you're new in the business and you're returning to business and you're not understanding what we're saying, a lot of you guys think that just because someone sells hundreds of houses and makes even millions of dollars per year, you think that they've got the whole financial, nut cracked. Oftentimes, they're the most broke of all the agents you're going to run into because they're spending all their money to maintain that illusion of success. Essentially they're caught in a golden cage. They don't have any profit because they're constantly spending all their money. And you know how you know that's true is when the tides go out and you see essentially that they're buying all their business. And it was all just for the sake of numbers. And I feel sorry for those people because they didn't probably understand that business model was based on, it wasn't really, the goal of that business model was to be famous and to sell houses and to create, volumes and transactions. It wasn't basically for the sake of profit. Now let's go over these last 3 points. And what we're focusing on is your action plan. If you haven't heard the first 2 podcasts on this series, please go back to it. And I want to remind you before, actually, it's the point number 14, or it's perfect. Point number 14 is complete your real estate treasure map for your big picture. And here it is. Here's how simple it is. Actually, I think point 14 and 15 are essentially the same thing. Yeah. Text 2021 to 855-685-1045. Text 2021 to 855-685-1045. And when you do, we're going to text you back a downloadable version of our book, The Real Estate Treasure Map, which is your fill-in-the-blank business plan. This is not just your business plan. This is your business and life plan. When you get this done, you're going to have a huge sense of relief and direction. And this is especially what you need right now going forward into what hopefully won't be as crazy as last year, but probably will be crazy in its own way. So text 2021 to 855-685-1045. And when you do, we'll text you back a link to download the Real Estate Treasure Map and actually 6 other books. Julie?
Yes. Now, that point was about the Real Estate Treasure Map, which is your all-encompassing, very personalized business plan. We also have point number 15, because we're talking about newer, returning, and also some of our coaching clients in this situation. You have the option. Real Estate Treasure Map really is the best place to start. And then after you've done that, we have kind of like mini plans that help you focus that in. Survival plan. We have the treasure map. We talked about the 90-day massive action plan. So let's say that you get your treasure map done, but now you're like, what do I do next? You do the 90-day massive action plan, but that's based on what you discovered, like your magic number and what your schedule should be and your goals.
When we were talking yesterday about how to make the Premier Coaching into something that was sequential, you could actually do it around days. That's a good idea. Yeah. Remember how we're saying develop it into like a progress bar type thing? Yep. All right, point number 16, set up 3 bank accounts. Julie Harris?
Okay, so here's the thing. And again, this is talked about in the Harris Rules book, which you can get at Amazon.
And Barnes & Noble, and Target, and Walmart.
Yes.
And bookstores everywhere.
No excuses. It's available. Okay, point number 16, set up 3 bank accounts. One is for your operations. This is what you pay your business bills from. One is for savings, at least 5% to start. Even if you're super brand new, a minimum 5% to start. And then another one for taxes, for most of you, at least 20% off of every check. So remember that just to start out, 25% of your net commission is set aside for taxes and savings. So, that goes right back to your conversation about net, right? You better have a high enough net, otherwise you're going to end up with not much left.
Now, here's why this is really important. Most agents, after they've been in the business for a year, will have their scrapes and their bruises and their successes and their victory stories and all that. But what almost all of them will have is tax debt.
Oh, yeah.
So you've got to be taking what we just said seriously and setting up your accounts and managing your money correctly from day one. Because there's two things agents don't do. They don't save money and they don't pay their taxes. So, by the way, this is the perfect solution for that is eXp Realty. Because what eXp Realty does is definitely creates frankly, guys, it creates so many different pathways for you to build success, for you to build wealth. That's like nothing I've ever seen before. I'd love to share with you why Julie and I are advocating on behalf of eXp Realty, why Julie put her real estate license with eXp Realty, and why we'd love to sponsor you at eXp Realty. And by the way, today, eXp Realty stock, what is it right now?
97.06.
97.06.
That's amazing.
It's traded on NASDAQ, right? And this stock started at the beginning of last year at like $6 or $8.
$6.50.
Yeah, there you go. So this is a company that is breaking all the rules, that's international, that's something you really want to be part of. Everyone's talking about eXp Realty. It's all over the press. It's supposedly one of the 5 top stocks to buy. And according to NASDAQ, all these different things that are going on in the marketplace. Pay attention to it, guys. This company would be owned by you if you are part of the company. eXp Realty is owned by the agents. eXp Realty shares revenue. You can create many, many different streams of income for yourself in addition to selling houses. So during what we feel is going to be the next, we think this is going to be the biggest real estate boom in the history of real estate booms because all the winds are at our back. Even if there is a recession, we still think real estate is going to be the safe harbor in anticipation of inflation. And as long as the interest rates stay low, there's really nothing to create a headwind. So do the smart thing. And if you're ready to join eXp Realty, text me directly 512-758-0206. Text me directly, 512-758-0206. And let's talk about you being part of Julie and I's eXp Realty family. All right, so here are the rules for the plan. To finish up today's points, Julie, you want to go through just right? Yeah, let's go through these. It's only 5 points. We can do these. Ready?
Okay.
These are easy.
Yep.
Point number 1, don't skip steps. So go back and listen to all the previous 16 steps. I just summarized it. Point number 2, Julie.
Don't listen to any agents, coaches, trainers, brokers, or quote advisors who are not at least as successful as you intend to be. They are actually literally not authorized to advise you. That includes Facebook surveys. It includes people who have never sold real estate before. And you can go to compareacoach.com to find out more on that. Okay.
How do you guys validate who you receive information from? If you're listening, if you want to go and learn how to play tennis, for example, wouldn't you want to know or take lessons from somebody who actually not just played tennis, but played tennis and was maybe ranked? How about played tennis, was ranked, and actually won some championships? Wouldn't that be the person you'd want to listen to most closely versus somebody that read a tennis book and decided to make some tennis videos and is a tennis influencer? I mean, doesn't it make sense that you guys are going to be very discerning, very careful, very selective about who you listen to when you're looking for, essentially a pathway up the mountain for yourself? And yet you don't, do you? You just go to whoever basically pops up in your email, whoever you listen to that looks like they know what they're talking about. But do you validate that they're not full of it? You don't. You need to. And the 3 rules that we put in place for all of you, write these down when you're trying to decide who you're going to listen to, especially when it comes to coaching, is number 1, have they ever sold real estate? You will be shocked how many people out there who call themselves real estate coaches who've never actually sold real estate. Oh, but you're a real estate guru that you're listening to on YouTube sold real estate. Good. So the next question is, have they actually sold real estate at a high level? Oh, okay. Well, no. That's where you're going to, maybe they had a license for like 22 seconds and then they never actually sold real estate, but they decided that they could be an internet lead generation guru and that's what they go off to do. So before you listen to anyone, did they sell real estate? Yes or no? If no, stop there. Did they sell real estate at a high level? And a high level means at least 100 homes per year. If they didn't, then you're done. You don't listen to them anymore because they don't know what they're talking about. Not to the point where you should essentially place your bets on that person. Number 3, did they sell real estate at a high level, at least 100 homes per year for at least, say, for example, 5 years in a row. Because it's possible that somebody got into the business and their Uncle Bob, who's a builder, listed a subdivision with them. And it's possible that they sold 100 homes, but they didn't really, that's not real, is it? No.
And there's also a lot of investor flipper types that are dabbling in coaching, so that doesn't count either.
Exactly. So start being really particular about who you listen to and get in the habit. Look, you guys can take in the information, but I've just given you 3 filters. Did this person sell real estate? Yes or no? Did this person sell at least 100 homes per year? Yes or no? Did this person sell at least 100 homes per year for at least 5 years in a row? Yes or no? If they didn't, hit the eject button. You can do better. Next point, Julie.
Okay, so next point is number 3. Do take massive action daily. Spend 75% of your day in lead generation, 10% on education, and 15% on actual appointments. Most agents spend the majority of their day getting ready to get started to possibly take action at a later date if the mood hits them.
I'm going to drill down on that.
Okay.
75% of most agents' day is spent on chasing shiny objects.
Yes.
For sure.
Or spent on nothing related to business.
Right. Well, they think it's work theater is what we call it, right?
Yeah. Looks like work.
Right. But they're not really doing anything.
No.
Actually, it's probably
worse than that.
It's probably worse than that.
Yeah.
They spend all their time listening and doing all this silly stuff, but they're not actually. Guys, here's the real test of whether or not you worked yesterday. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. Did you put yourself in a position to hear the word no at least 5 times? And I'm not saying no from your kid, because Zoe says no to us 1,000 times a day.
Before 9.
Not from your dog, or from your spouse or your partner or whatever. No from a seller, or no from a buyer, but a seller specifically. Did you actually put yourself in the position where you would actually have someone say potentially no to you? If you didn't work yesterday.
Jeb Blount makes a big point about this in his book, Fanatical Prospecting, because he studies successful salespeople, on not just in real estate, but sales in general. And he says that the top 1 or 2% of salespeople have more than 140% in more contact day to day. They make 140% more time on the phone, more calls, more contacts, more conversations. So it just makes sense that they would be at the top.
Well, I was listening to something on Clubhouse, an app which actually I'm really enjoying. I think it's really cool where that technology could go. And one of the gals presenting was the #1 female private jet salesperson in the world.
That's awesome.
Right? And I was loving what she was saying because she was saying the truth. Where does she spend all of her time? On the phone.
Yeah,
okay?
connecting people and doing her job.
And there are other top sales. Matter of fact, I think Glenn Sanford was on this actual Clubhouse, and the other people were saying all the same thing. You're spending the time on the phone when you're in sales, talking to people that actually might do business with you. So the idea of saying I did not work unless I would put myself in a position to hear no at least 5 times a day, that cuts through all kinds of BS, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. I mean, it does. When you're doing a YouTube video, or you're doing a TikTok video, or you're doing all these other silly things that people tell you to do, or you're doing a pop by, you're not even remotely putting yourself in a position to hear no, which means you're not even remotely going towards or a potential sale. Because by hearing no, you're going to be talking to people that are actually in the market. You're not going to people in the market. You're trying to speak to people that might someday, hopefully, maybe transact with you.
Yeah, low on our chart.
Stop doing that. It's what makes you broke.
All right, point number 4, don't spend money you don't have. Make the pledge to keep unnecessary, unproven, speculative items off your credit cards. We talked about this, most notably buying leads, branding, marketing, farming, all of those things. Don't spend the money that you don't have. You don't need to do that.
Hold on, Julie. I went to a seminar and they told me I need to basically start working on my brand and I need to work on my farming.
Yeah,
and
what's your budget for that, Tim?
I need to be a farmer. Well, I need to mail, and I did choose my neighborhood of 500 homes. I need to mail them a direct postcard twice a month. And that's the only, and I need to work on it so that, I'm going to have the dominant, mind share. And when they think of me, they're going to think of real estate. And because I'm going to mail them postcards and I'm going to just keep on hammering them with my messages, me and my, pretty family, my pretty dog.
And you do realize that it has about a 1% return after you've done it for about 8 months, times the amount of money it's going to cost you to do that, if it works at all. So how much, what are you prepared to, how long can you wait? How much of a budget? Because you don't have a budget for that. It says don't spend money you don't have.
And so why are you guys seduced by that? Because there's no conflict.
Passive.
It's passive.
Low on the chart.
Low on the chart of effectiveness. High on the chart for ineffectiveness and costliness. Next point.
Well, and we've seen agents go broke before they had a deal from that
And
kind of
this,
stuff.
This next point, Julie, I'll cover this one.
Okay.
So make sure you choose the right
Yep.
broker. Now, this, it's funny, we wrote this how many years ago? Before we were working with EXP.
I know.
But that really is true. Point number 5 is make sure you choose the right broker. But I mean, we always will, we're not going to be politically correct, if you want to call it that, when it comes to suggesting you guys be very selective who you listen to. You don't have to listen to everyone's opinion when it comes to essentially building your business and making money. You don't have to essentially think you're obligated to think everyone is on an equal playing field as far as what they have to say, because they're not. Be very discerning who you listen to. Now, here's the problem you've got with your broker selection and your office manager selection and all that. Chances are they've only been in the business for 10 years or less. And chances are they don't know how to do anything other than basically buy leads, because they only have been in the business during the sort of buying leads, era, which is what we're kind of coming to the end of. With Zillow essentially finally showing its true colors and going into the become a direct competitor for all of you. The buying leads business is going to essentially have proven now, because enough people have done it and experimented with it, to be incredibly ineffective. And we've just given you a whole bunch of examples why on today's show alone. So that era is going to come to an end. So if you're associating with a coach, a guru, an office manager, a broker who only is going to tell you buy leads, build brand, join team, then you basically are going to be stuck in that ecosystem, and you don't understand the unintended, essentially consequences of following that path. And maybe it has something to do with all the agents that follow that path with our, belief that the failure rate, or essentially the duration that an agent is in the business before they fail, it used to be about 2 years, but we think it's now closer to a year. So in other words, even though there's this a huge amount of people that are supposedly experts at helping agents generate leads and all the rest of it, we're seeing the amount of time that an agent spends in the business before they are effectively failed out of the business. Maybe they still have active licenses, but they're certainly not earning a living in real estate. It's increasing, not decreasing. You would think if all these business models were valid, that there would be more agents that were staying in the business for longer and making more money, but that isn't what is happening. So you have to be very careful who you align with, because you're going to inadvertently adopt their philosophies of building their business, and you're in that unconscious incompetence phase, and you don't know what you don't know. So you're going to gravitate towards anybody who's going to give you a shoulder to lean on. And what if that shoulder that you're leaning on actually isn't the person that you should have been listening to, if your intent was to actually make profit and to build wealth for your family? So we absolutely are going to be very direct with you. Do seriously consider joining EXP. Do consider having Julie and I as your personal sponsors. If you want to talk about that, 512-758-0206. And the last point is, of course, something you guys already know. Do stay listening to our podcast every single day. You already are. We are never going to change our message. We're never going to change the tenor of our message. We're never going to change the directives of our message. We're never going to placate an advertiser or a marketing partner, for the sake of basically getting their money. We're never going to do that. We're not going to compromise what we do or how we do it, because you guys you're our people. When, we always preach to you guys to be of service to other people. You're the people that we choose to be of service to. Anything you want to say about that, Jules?
Yeah, well, I was just thinking about, that's one of the reasons why we like EXP, is because it is the most agent-centric, agent-owned business, and we're agent-centric. Everything we bring to you every day is to bring you more success faster, to save you from some of the painful learning curves that some of your colleagues have experienced and that we certainly did, and to get you to the finish line faster, so that you can actually not just set goals, but achieve your goals.
Have you ever noticed, every time that you pick that up, they can hear it, by the way, I see it on the
sorry.
mic. So do you know that, have you noticed when people buy something, even as they discover flaws in the product, they don't, generally speaking, want to admit the flaws, because then they are embarrassed that they bought something with flaws. Yeah. So I see that happening with all kinds of consumer products, right? Mm-hmm. Like our iPhones. You and I find issues with this iPhone 12 Plus Pro, or whatever the heck it is, that the old one didn't have.
No, it didn't.
There's
got some bugs.
when I'm texting, my stupid phone thinks abs as and it spell corrects me every single time.
Yeah.
It's like, what does the system? Why does my text think that any human would be typing abs that often versus and?
I don't know.
It's just dumb.
But you're right. Because we're generally a fan of iPhone and Apple.
You're not going to go out and you're not going to say crap about it.
No.
And so people, once they make a buying decision, generally speaking, won't then say the bad things about the whatever that they purchased.
Unless they're really bad, but yes.
Yeah, but you get the point.
Yeah, sure.
And so that's what happens.
That's confirmation bias, right? You're confirming your own bias because it was your decision.
Right. It's your ego that's going to have to take a hit if you admit that the decision you made was bad.
I know.
And that's the reason a lot of these people, when they align themselves with some of these gimmicks that are out there in the marketplace, the agents aren't going to say, I just signed up for, XYZ coaching company.
Yeah.
And they told me to do all this social networking and all this fanciful stuff.
But they want to believe that it's going to work.
And you're right. And then because what will happen ultimately is they're afraid of the criticism. Because some of these ideas and these prevailing, concepts, they become almost like religion. So if you go on, and I know because we get these arrows too. So if you sign up for, some fairy tale based coaching program, and then you essentially are following all those, systems and whatever else they're trying to get you to believe, and then it doesn't work, you're not going to go online and say, I did all of it and it didn't work, because then you're afraid that the zealots inside the religion are going to attack you. So you don't, and what you then do is, because you are feeling invalidated yourself, is you start to believe that those systems and the things that they're trying to get you to do didn't work because of you. In other words, you internalize the failure of the idea as a personal failure, which in a way it is, but really it was a failure of you choosing the wrong path.
You made a mistake. You can change. You
Right.
made a mistake.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. And so when that's, again, you guys come to us sometimes licking your wounds from having tried to be the mayor of your own town on YouTube or whatever, or trying to be an influencer, and you think there's something wrong with you. You think you're too fat, too young, too old, too just not entertaining enough. You didn't give enough value. You didn't, all this garbage. But the reality of it was just a bad idea, and you were essentially, as we just said, you are unconsciously incompetent. In other words, you didn't have the filters to run the idea through to know it was an idea you should have been chasing in the first place. Does this make sense, Julie?
Absolutely, it does. So trust us. I mean, what else?
Really?
What else can I say?
That's it. I mean, guys, look, intuitively when Julie and I say something and you're listening to what we're saying,
We've got your back, okay?
we're not, look, did we try to sell you a single thing? Well, I suppose we did, right? But the reality of it is what we're telling you to do does require skill, but it is something that you will then have a real business to base it around. You'll have real profit. We want you to be in this business for years, for decades, for like lots of decades. I received a great text from a gal named Beata that I coached 20 years ago. How about that? And it makes me feel fantastic that she remembers some of the things that we talked about on those coaching calls. I have to tell you guys, when you have those experiences from your past real estate clients, and then you're going to realize that you built, well, I'll tell you what I told her. It made me feel really good that I was able to help her 2 decades ago. And it also made me feel really old because I've been coaching for 2 decades.
Right.
Those two thoughts.
That's a lot of calls.
That is a lot of calls.
Yes.
But anyway, so you guys, listen, stay true, stay drilled down. This could be your best year ever. It should be your best year ever. Do feel free to reach out to me directly if I can help you in any way at 512-758-0206. In the meantime, you have a fantastic day. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.
This program has been a presentation by Tim and Julie Harris, Real Estate Coaching. For more information on our real estate coaching and training programs, visit our website at timandjulieharris.com. Remember to tune in weekdays at noon for upcoming shows. And until next time, thank you for listening to Real Estate Coaching Radio with Tim and Julie Harris.